There's a good group of us already on here, so thank you all. And then we'll conclude with the question and answer, but I'll give you guys a little intro. So I might actually just go ahead and get started.
Yeah, just want to let you know that our two middle schoolers who haven't joined us yet, they will be here shortly. This is a
I know
transition time between two classes, so they should be here shortly. Thank you.
Thank you all for doing that. Perfect. So welcome everybody. Perfectly 12 o'clock on the dot now. Thank you for coming today for our school composting webinar. My name is Kat Polk, and I'm the Executive Director for the North Carolina Composting Council, also known as NCCC. The NCCC is a member-based organization, a nonprofit organization that is hosting our webinar today in recognition of NC Climate Week. We can make a profound impact on the Earth's climate by minimizing food waste in landfills and increasing compost production and use. I have experience previously as the program coordinator for the Garbage to Gardens program in New Hanover County. And then I'm also a mother to 5 children and have experience helping them set up school composting at the Friends School of Wilmington a little bit. So before we begin, I'm also going to introduce the other panelists. And just some quick housekeeping, if you don't mind, we'll turn off our videos so that we can try to help with avoiding any lag on the video sharing. And then also please keep your microphones muted as well. If you have questions, you're welcome to include them in the chat box. And at the end, we will address the question and answer. Also, the resources that you might hear about throughout the presentation will be shared at the end as well. And then we have a link to those as well for you guys. So I'm going to turn off my video as well now. And Muriel, Matt, and Corrie, y'all can keep yours on or off. I'm going to introduce you, but then I'll go back into the PowerPoint. So I'll stop my video. Muriel Williman has been a solid waste professional for 25 years, focusing on waste reduction and material management through recycling and composting practices and markets. She worked for 18 years in Orange County, North Carolina, leading the state with 64% waste reduction through comprehensive waste reduction programs and communications, especially composting indoors and out for events in businesses, schools, local government, and commercial collections. She has influenced local and regional programs, practices, and policy to incorporate food waste reduction and composting strategies. She is now the Senior Assistant Solid Waste Manager for the City of Durham, where she oversees the daily operation of the city's Solid Waste Disposal and Recycling Center, which holds a regional transfer station, convenience center, and type 1 composting facility. Muriel Williman is also the board president for the NCCC. Thank you for joining us today, Muriel. We've also got Matt Collogan with us. Matt is a 2007 UNCW Environmental Studies graduate who became a certified environmental educator while working with New Hanover County Parks and Gardens at Airlie Gardens, where he worked for 9 years. Matt owns a small mixed produce farm in Hyattsville, where he actively composts and uses cover crop. As one of the founding members of the Coastal Composting Committee in Wilmington and a graduate of the 2014 Compost Operation Training course hosted by NCCC, Matt is a proponent of diverting organic materials away from the landfill and back to the community for use in sustainable gardening. In 2021, Matt was hired as the Consumer Horticulture Agent for the NC Cooperative Extension Services based at the New Hanover County Arboretum. And also in 2021, Matt was elected to supervisor of the New Hanover Soil and Water Conservation District. Matt joined the North Carolina Composting Council Board in 2022 and is soon taking on a new position at the Cooperative Extension as the Tri-County Resource Officer. Congratulations, Matt. And in 2022, he secured a hefty 2-year USDA grant to the extension, to grow the Garbage to Garden School composting program and develop it into a county department. And our last panelist introduction is Corrie Slay. She is previously the 5th grade teacher at Friends School of Wilmington for the past 8 years, but she is now the lower school academic coordinator. Corrie helped set up and lead the school's composting program, both in the classroom and processing it in the field. She works alongside Karen Linehan, the school's environmental education coordinator, to empower students to run the program themselves. Karen is also on the call with us today, and Corrie will be joined by 3 middle school students, Hazel, Mikey, and Abby, to share their experiences with building school composting and infrastructure. So a quick look at our agenda for today's webinar. We will discuss why compost in schools and what is school composting, how to compost in schools and build school composting infrastructure, education, excuse me. Can you guys see that still? We have education and implementation from a pre-K through 8th grade school, which is Friends School of Wilmington. And then again, we'll share resources and top it off with a question and answer. Okay. So why compost in schools? These are just some of the core goals for a school composting program: to reduce the school to landfill waste by diverting school organics for composting, to incorporate systems knowledge of food and waste streams, to understand composting and the ecology of closed loop systems, to support the North Carolina Standard Course of Study and integrate environmental education, and to leverage existing partnerships and build community. Composting provides an opportunity for students to participate in a collaborative system where they responsibly manage their waste streams and participate in growing food through school gardens, where compost can also be applied. School composting exposes students to real-life experiences that support the curriculum and helps children of all ages to understand closed-loop systems. So before we get into more details, I just wanted to clarify that there are a lot of different ways that you can compost in schools. So some of the more common ones that you might see are composting in the cafeteria. And yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your slides aren't.
I was worried. Thank you. It stopped showing it for a second. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you might want to try putting it into the presentation view, because we can also see your slides down at the future slides down at the bottom. So if you
Thank
change.
you, Karen. I thought it was in that
No
one.
problem. Sorry, y'all.
No, I appreciate that. So it's in presentation view now. Can you see that?
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I was hoping you would chime in if that had happened. I thought it might have. Okay. Oh, it did it again though. It's when I minimize the video. Is it showing now?
That's better.
Okay.
That works. Yep.
Okay, so composting in the cafeteria with a hauler who will pick it up and then process it offsite is probably the ideal or the easiest way to get it going. But you can also compost in the classrooms, both with the hauler in the same system or with the vermicompost bin in the classroom itself. And then there's also the option to compost and process the compost at school. And so typically that would be with a 3-bin system. Okay. So before we go into more details, or no, excuse me, I also wanted to just share this list of an a la carte ways to get started. So the biggest impact, I think, is obviously to do composting in the cafeteria. So cafeteria recycling, tray stacking, and liquid dumping, in addition to composting, can divert a lot of your average cafeteria waste stream. And then shared tables and sustainable purchasing are other ways that you can try to reduce your landfill waste coming out of the cafeteria. In the classrooms, it's the same concept. You can recycle and compost in the classrooms, but then also bring in the environmental education component. And then beyond the classrooms, you can maintain school gardens or go on to community field trips at the landfill or wastewater treatment centers to really bring the concepts to life for the students. And the beautiful thing about school composting programs is that they open the door for children to explore content beyond the classroom, and it'll emphasize the value of natural resources and a closed loop food system. And we share this list to inspire you all to start wherever you can with whatever means you have available to your school. So schools can divert 75 to 95% of their average cafeteria waste with composting and diversion programs. So very simple changes can create a huge major impact. School cafeterias generate huge amounts of waste. The school waste streams typically include landfill trash, recyclables, food, and other organic compostable materials, liquids, and trays. In New Hanover County, which is Wilmington, North Carolina, there are 24,841 students who are generating about 1.5 pounds of trash in a week. So that would equate to 18.5 tons of waste per week. There are a lot of financial and environmental reasons to implement school composting programs across communities in North Carolina. So what's in the school's cafeteria waste streams? No matter where you are, I guarantee you that these images probably portray a majority of what you would see. Cafeteria waste streams are predictable and consistent. Aside from food waste, you're likely to find a lot of plastics. Plastic films and wrappers, containers, bottles, cutlery, sauce packets, and foam trays. Plastics can be one of the biggest challenges for school composting programs and is also an opportunity for improvement, both environmentally and financially. Understanding the different recycling numbers and what can and cannot be recycled is essential for school composting programs to be effective. Plastic also contaminates school composting bins, which is a major issue for the composting process and industry as a whole. Styrofoam is a type of plastic and has a long lifespan in the landfill. In New Hanover County, the public schools typically use the same trays in the cafeteria, and none of them are using the dishwashers or reusable trays and cutlery, which would be ideal. And I'll follow up on that with this reduce, reuse, recycle, waste reduction hierarchy. This is just a reminder that procurement and sourcing in the cafeteria of serviceware and food products should be evaluated and improved when you're setting up a school composting program. Reducing the amount of waste that ends up in the landfill is a priority in every community. If schools can reuse trays and cutlery, that should be implemented. However, it's not always an option. The good thing about school composting programs is that in whatever capacity they're implemented, you're teaching children and adults to use a resourceful mindset to conserve resources. It requires students, faculty, and staff to acknowledge the circularity or linearity of our cafeteria waste streams. So recycling and composting would actually sort of be at the bottom of this waste hierarchy. It would be more ideal to reduce and reuse in our daily lives and especially in the schools. So the average cafeteria waste stream, this is just some of the data because it's so important to have the data in order to push policy changes in favor of school composting. So when I worked with the Garbage to Gardens program, before it was a county program, I did a little bit of a waste characterization study in 2 elementary schools for 4 days at each school. And on average, we would have 4 or 5 gallon compost buckets filled with the food waste. 1 5-gallon bucket would almost always fill up with the milk or other liquids, around 30 gallons of trash, and around 45 gallons of recycling, depending on the school's access to the recycling facilities. So in New Hanover County, we do have access to UNC Wilmington's specialty recycling facility, which has an increased capacity to accept plastic films, number 5 plastics, and styrofoam recycling. So check in your communities for if there are any specialty recycling options and know that they can greatly enhance your program's effectiveness for diversion. And again, this shows the consistency and predictability of school cafeteria waste streams. It's a good reminder to replace items that could be reusable. So instead of plastic Ziploc bags, you can use reusable waters or bottles in your lunchbox. But this data also highlights the opportunity to make tremendous financial savings by shifting from some of these high volume items like the sauce packets to pumps with paper ramekins. Compostable cutlery packs are also a good opportunity for schools to improve your composting programs and reduce your waste. But that said, it is important to understand the composting process and what your school's capacity is. If you live in an area where the composting facility cannot accept compostable packaging materials, for example, then it is not something that you would want to push for in procurement to have your schools utilizing compostable products if they don't have an end life at your composting facility. So do your research and keep track of your cafeteria waste stream data to justify the program and the school cafeteria changes. Okay, and so now I'm going to pass the microphone over to Muriel, who will share about the Chapel Hill and Hill-Carrboro Schools experience.
Thank you so much, Kat. I don't have a whole lot to add to that masterclass, except for a slightly different example from Chapel Hill-Carrboro Schools from when I was working with Orange County Solid Waste Management in 2015. I worked with a woman named Sue Scope, who later became the founder of a nonprofit called every tray counts. And I also worked with the brand new sustainability coordinator for the school system, a fellow named Dan Schnitzer, to create a systematic, I should say system-wide food scrap diversion system for the for the Chapel Hill-Carrboro school system. So it started with a phone call, as many of these things do, from Sue. She was really interested in replacing styrofoam trays in the schools with less toxic paper options. She was also aware that it just so happened that the Orange County Solid Waste, where I worked, contracted with a large-scale commercial composter called Brooks in Chatham County. So we already had a well-established commercial composting program from large-scale generators in the county, such as grocery stores. So I knew from working with Brooks that their principal there, a woman named Amy, was interested in getting in the schools and would be able to negotiate a favorable price for the schools. So just starting out with looking at the trays, needless to say, it is costly to change trays from ultra cheap styrofoam. And it's also costly to add a commercial composting collection and all the carts that are needed there. So we did two different things in advance of making any changes. We did a dumpster audit, and we also beta tested paper trays in the cafeteria that were priced only a few cents more per tray than the styrofoam ones. Without those two financial pictures clear, we really couldn't move forward. Whoops. Missing some of my notes. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna have to freewheel. Sorry, y'all. So the dumpster audit, the way that worked out in the Chapel Hill-Carrboro schools, the dumpsters are collected by the public works departments in both Carrboro and Chapel Hill respectively. And those systems had not really been looked at since they were first established when the Chapel Hill-Carrboro city school system was broken out of the Orange County. So these mostly they were collecting, 2 or more dumpsters twice per week from the schools. And so we took our first school that was just down the street from my office, an elementary school called Morris Grove, and we went there on collection day. And sure enough, they had 2 dumpsters, that one of which was only about a third full, and the other was only half full. And they were collected twice per week in that way. So in looking at all of the dumpsters from the elementary and middle schools throughout the system, they were able to reduce collections by 50%. They were able to cut them in half, either by reducing dumpsters from 2 to 1 or from 3 to 2, depending on the size of the school. So that created the budgetary leeway to negotiate adding carts for composting. Now, this is very conservative, right? Because you're not even taking away the food yet, because that's going to reduce the amount that's going in the dumpsters as well as removing a lot of the putrescible waste that requires, no, you can keep it on that first slide. I'm just going to talk through this. Yeah, thank you. As well as, diverting the putrescible waste. That is really why dumpsters are often collected more than once per week, because that is the life cycle of the common house fly. So it is a public health issue that requires that food scraps be collected at least once a week, if not twice, particularly at schools. So so that was where the money was found for the composting program. That is not always possible with every school system. I strongly recommend, if you are looking at making a change, that you go to find out who is doing your trash collection at the schools, how often, how much it's costing, and how many containers they're collecting. Sometimes, these contracts, like I said, are on lock because they are extremely lucrative. Here in Durham, there's very little that can be done to alter those contractual situations because they are 10-year contracts. So you really have to wait until there's an opening and then be ready to negotiate having that that monetary benefit in mind. So doing a waste audit, obviously a waste characterization study can also let you know about how much food scraps will be diverted from those dumpsters as well, adding extra impetus in reducing the number of hauls. The other piece was, of course, the trays. And in this picture, you can see the lunch trays in the corner. There are two distinct types. We got the child nutrition manager for the Chapel Hill-Carrboro school systems on board only so far that she could afford to change the trays and that they passed her muster for, you know, they had to pass her criteria for not soaking through with wet foods or folding or leaking, you know, with hot foods. So hot and wet foods on a paper tray had to be able to make it through lunch and make it all the way to the end. And she found two different kinds of trays that that fit her criteria that also were within her budget. So with that, we were able to move forward with the school waste assessment. We did it a little differently than how Kat proposed. We set up different types of containers and had the children do the sorting with parent and teacher assistance. And so, you know, being able to identify exactly what is coming through your cafeteria is going to help you set up a successful program in the future. So we set it up this way, and we were able to pilot the program at 3 schools. And we set it up like we thought it should be, but of course the feedback from the teachers, the kids, and the custodians were absolutely critical. We got the head custodian to help with the waste characterization study at Morris Grove, and he later became our spokesperson for the program moving forward. Of course, the concern with the custodians is that, you know, they're going to, you know, it's an additional burden for them. But when they found out that they didn't have to carry heavy, wet garbage bags out during lunch, that instead they could wheel out carts of heavy food scraps, that really aided our argument for making this change in the cafeteria. We decided to, on the order of bins, recycling, landfill, and compost with a sink or bin for liquids in that order, because that was what was easiest for the kids to manage. We also shared tips with the teachers, such as have the kids sort the waste on their trays before they come up to the trash containers, so that they're ready to go when they get there and they don't have to stand there and puzzle it out while the line forms behind them, obviously. We did classroom programs with sorting activities to get the students accustomed to it. We had a slideshow with the different items from the cafeteria and where they went. We ensured that the signage reflected the actual items that we used, as you know, Kat showed in her previous slide. We also ran a high school art competition to design the signs that were then placed in the schools. We added step schools to some of the elementary schools where the bins were too high for the students to reach. And we worked on adding reusables, such as bulk containers for ketchup, mustard, and other condiments. And we were able to add cups in some of the schools where there was dishwashing capability, and reusable silverware. And so the sustainability coordinator talked with staff before school each year about the process, encouraged them to bring their kids to the cafeteria during the first week when they were touring the school, mostly kindergarten, to see and understand the setup so that the parents would be on board as well. And then after a couple of weeks into the school year, things were generally running pretty smoothly. They did end up diverting over 255,000 pounds annually from 15 elementary school and middle schools and 1 high school. Interesting with the high schools, they don't actually generate a lot of food waste because the kids are leaving campus and going to eat at restaurants nearby with their friends, or out, you know, in the parking lot hanging out. So the waste audit is really instructive, and found, if you will, that the money was in the elementary and middle schools. Okay, next slide. The waste characterization study is just a great tool, whether you're able to implement a composting program or not. This was one that was done at Phillips Middle School And as you can see, the liquids, that orange portion is 21% of the waste stream. Even if you just start a tip and recycle program where you're tipping out the liquids, you can pour them down the drain and recycle the cartons. If that is what is acceptable in your recycling program, check with your MRF, the material recovery facility, and also make sure that the custodians are able to wash the recycling containers, because there will be an additional milk odor when you start recycling all of those cartons. But nonetheless, 21% of the waste stream can be reduced simply through a tip and recycle program. Even if you don't have composting capability, even if you just do a waste characterization study. Next slide, please. You can have a tremendous impact. I ended up utilizing waste characterization studies for recycling as well as food waste. This is one teacher. She did a study with her students, and they found that it was costing $23,000 annually for the amount of milk that was thrown away. And, you know, to say that that had an impact was an understatement. When you put it into a dollar figure for kids, let them do the math, it can really have an impact. Even if you don't do any composting, a waste characterization study can add to lifetime learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Muriel. That's great info. And it's so important to remember that even though it might be more expensive to buy sustainable products, that you can save on tipping fees or in other areas like wasted milk. I'm going to wait until the end of all of our panelists to share a couple video clips at the end if we have time, but these will also be included with the links in the resources that you all receive after the webinar. But this video will be a great demonstration of everything we're talking about today, and it has an outstanding quote and perspective from their school custodian as well. So here we are now. This is sort of the bulk of it, setting up your school composting stations. So like I said, the cafeteria is the most ideal place to do this. We recommend color-coded bins with double-sided access and clear detailed signage, ideally with realistic waste stream items shown on display. In New Hanover County, we've used blue for recycling, green for compost, black bins for trash, and the white ones for liquids. The consistency of the color-coded bins is important for the program to be effective with the students, and I think it helps with the custodial staff as well, and the adults, the teachers. Consider things like hauling when you're purchasing your bins. Compost could be collected from 5-gallon buckets, but they would need to be emptied numerous times during the lunch period, most likely. Or maybe a larger 29 or 50-gallon cart with wheels would be more appropriate for your school's collection of organic waste. Compostable bags will also likely be used in your bins and carts, but it is important to keep in mind that a cleaning system might also be needed to rinse your bins out afterwards, so a hose or some sort of access for rinsing, and then also keeping trash pickers nearby to remove contamination. So once you're ready to implement your program, you'll need to establish and prepare your school composting program team. On an individual school level, this includes your school administration, custodial staff, students, teachers, teachers' assistants, and specialist teachers. To establish your school's composting practice, you'll need to start with approval and hopefully funding from your school administration. You'll want to develop a strategy and location to set up your color-coded diversion bins in the cafeteria and/or classroom. I've also seen it done in the hallways so that numerous classrooms can access it. Consider if your school will use a compost hauler or if you'll process it at school, and be aware of state permitting requirements for large volumes of compost processing at school. I don't think any of you will need to get to that point. If you do, congratulations. Faculty and staff, this one, it's really important to have an adult available to answer students' questions about sorting at the waste diversion stations. So during the lunch period, that would typically be at the end of each class's lunch section. Plan to have an adult or an educated leader nearby to support students and avoid contamination in the bins. So this is a great spot where assistants or specialist teachers might be able to help out and improve your school composting programs. It's, I think, a heavy load to ask from the teachers, but in my experience, the assistants and the specialists might be able to provide more support. And then also in your parent community or school community, you don't want to leave out your parent volunteers and your parent organizations because they can be a great support. So the parents are a valuable resource because they can help you be the adult educator at the end of the lunch periods that are standing there by the diversion bins. And it's usually just answering a quick question or helping them go through the process, like what Muriel said, do your liquids first and then whatnot, your recycling or compost. But the parent organizations, they might also have a budget that can assist with the cost of school composting. So if you're in the very early phases, that could be a place where you could get a little bit of a seed to plant with a small amount of money, whether it's to provide the hauling fees or to get bins or whatever you need for your program. They can also help manage the volunteers possibly and coordinate a volunteer sign up for your cafeteria diversion or other program support in the classroom or gardens as well. So a school responsibility agreement can be extremely helpful to ensure that all the parties and people involved understand and uphold their responsibilities. For instance, hauling fees, facility maintenance, and providing education to faculty, staff, and students is essential to prepare in advance. Requirements to keep signage around the bins and to have teachers and custodial support can be helpful and is often essential. So the school agreements can be a good sort of safety marker there to make sure everybody's on the same page and the program runs smoothly. And then I'm going to pass it off to Matt pretty soon because he has more experience, I think, building the infrastructure. But this chart does show you all the existing departments and key stakeholders who are already involved with, that would be involved with the school composting program. So that is going to include your facilities, maintenance, child nutrition services, and your executive administration. And so it's very dynamic. And there are a lot of departments and different budgets involved from that standpoint. So Matt, I'm going to pass this slide over to you, and then we'll come back in a couple slides and get into our education with the school composting.
Super. Thanks, Kat and Muriel. Yeah, that last slide, a lot going on, but don't get overwhelmed. It's crucial that you really start where you're at and start with small messes first before you think about doing a systemic approach to the whole school system. So pick one school and start with one thing at a time. Maybe just stacking your trays initially, or just diverting your liquids, and work up to that full suite of diversion options before you really try to bite off more than you can handle. I know here in New Hanover County, it was a real slow roll how we unfurled this program, and it really goes back to 2015 when local university UNCW and New Hanover County Recycling and Solid Waste teamed up to start composting food waste coming out of UNCW's Aramark dining services food halls. And so you had a private business there with Aramark, you had a municipality, New Hanover County Recycling, and then you had the agency of the school, UNCW, were able to start composting in this machine right here, which is known as Huckleberry. New Hanover County invested about $450,000 to build this in-vessel composting unit to start demonstrating proof of concept that we can turn food waste into usable compost. Overall, it's a drop in the bucket of all the organic material that goes to our landfill, but it was a crucial first step to showing that it could be done. And compost made from this process is actually returned back to schools that participate in the program. So fast forwarding from 2015 with that interest between the municipality of New Hanover County Recycling and Solid Waste and UNCW and Aramark, we found a hero at one of our local elementary schools, Principal Paul Slovic, who really became a champion of composting within an elementary school. And that was our first pilot. And for more than 2 years, we were figuring things out. This was also working through COVID. And so there were start and stops. with that. But because we had a believer in one of the principles, and I guess we can go back a slide now that we've seen Huckleberry. Get me back on the list here. So yeah, we really starts, as was said earlier, getting buy-in from your administration, from the school. And beyond that, you also really need a point of contact in the school to keep things going. Again, another champion, but this time usually someone like a resource teacher or even a classroom teacher who's really taken this on. And buy-in from the custodial staff is crucial, and making sure everyone's on the same page, and even cafeteria staff for that matter. So once you've got buy-in from the school, then it really started to happen where we were building out these relationships as we tried to expand to new schools. And we really hit a break when USDA awarded us $180,000 to hire someone full-time to take on that coordination role between all the schools we wanted to divert from. And so that was a really unique collaboration where you had several county departments working together. We had New Hanover Soil and Water Conservation District, because of their affiliation with NRCS, which was the granting organization. They helped administer the grant. North Carolina Cooperative Extension, there's an office in every county in North Carolina, and really every state has cooperative extension. And it was staff time at Extension, largely myself, that contributed to writing the grant. And then on the back end, once we received that money, we were really lucky to have buy-in from New Hanover County Recycling and Solid Waste to house the office space of this coordinator role, allowing them to become a county employee with all those kind of fringe benefits of having a computer, a place to stay, a county vehicle, having that support at the county department level was really crucial to expanding the program. And so today we're now at 11 schools in New Hanover County, hoping to get to 18 by the end of the 2-year grant cycle. And then what happens when that grant money runs out? Well, another benefit of building up this collaboration is that money has already been budgeted. I don't know if the commissioners have approved it yet, but already the department, New Hanover County Recycling and Solid Waste, has put forth in their budget that personnel salary to maintain that position after the grant expires. So having buy-in from multiple county agencies and then the participants at the schools really makes a big difference. And then tying it all together, though, is that private waste hauler. In our case, it's Wilmington Compost Company, which helps facilitate the pickup and drop off of all that food waste. So start small. These relationships take time to build, but you definitely need critical things along the way, like buy-in from school administrators and champions there, as well as the actual infrastructure and capacity to move that organic material. And really, some of our longer term goals, besides spreading it to more schools, is maybe ultimately getting buy-in from New Hanover County Schools Nutrition and their Child Nutrition Services Department, and trying to make this kind of a systemic approach to organics diversion in the cafeteria. Is there another slide for this? Or I guess I wanted to mention, again, starting small, we really got our feet going with some micro grants. And North Carolina Composting Council actually offers micro grants of $1,500, and that money actually allowed us to produce a video, and that started spreading the educational message of what we were trying to do. And that led to like a $8,000 grant that funded Kat part-time in that role as a coordinator. And then building on top of that, we were able to get that USDA money a couple of years later to fund a full-time position. So it's definitely a growing process. And it's by design too. You wouldn't want to just jump into this full force. Definitely a lot of growing pains we went through, but that just made a stronger product in the end. And now we're like I said, we're at 11 schools, and I think we're over 60,000 pounds was diverted last year, and we hope to expand on that in the coming year. Hopefully that was
Yeah, great work in New
coherent.
County. It's such a wonderful model for everybody else to learn from. So thank you for sharing that, Matt. But overall, I think going into the classroom and to the students, it's just so important to educate our students to conserve their resources and understand their interconnected food and waste streams beyond the school, but within the larger community. Through school composting programs, students experience hands-on learning to explore the world of decomposers and to compost to study physical life and earth sciences. So the next slide, I'm actually just gonna probably pass over to Friends School. These were some quick tips that I had learned with the Garbage to Gardens program, but I think Friends School is exemplifying a lot of this. And it's namely just to utilize the older students and let them take pride and ownership in your programs and help make sure that it runs effectively. So you can have compost captains that help answer questions or students sort at their table. And then also if you are processing at school, older students can help maintain the pile. But Corrie, Slay, and some of the Friends School middle schoolers are with us today, so I'm going to let them share about the Friends School composting program now. Corrie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
That's audio.
Hello, everyone. My trusty middle schoolers were like, "You're muted." Thank you, Kat, for inviting us to this amazing event. And I want to start off by really letting our wonderful students here kind of speak about their experiences with our program. And then I will add in a few things that we do. I think it's helpful for our audience to know that our school is an independent school and we do not have a cafeteria. So those are some things that kind of make our composting program a little bit different. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Abby.
Hello, my name is Abby. I'm here as an 8th grade representative of Friends School of Wilmington. In 5th grade, we started a compost program where we distributed compost bins to each grade and taught them the importance of composting. Once a week, we picked up the bins, emptied them into our school composter, and then delivered the bins back to the classes. In our school, we use songs to educate everyone, so our class decided to create the compost song to help teach people about what items can be composted. We learned valuable lessons about what waste does to our planet, and now our school is determined to decrease the amount of waste in our trash and try our hardest to inspire others to do the same.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our 7th grader, Mikey.
Hi, I'm Mikey. I'm in the 7th grade at the Friends School of Wilmington, and here they taught me almost everything I know about composting and how we can increase sustainability in our community. I learned from many ways, such as watching others present plays, create posters, games, and we even had other people from other organizations come to teach us about composting. Every year, the 5th graders do something to teach the younger students about composting. My class created a play based off the story The Little Red Hen and created a poster to show what to compost, recycle, and what to throw away. Another thing we did to contribute to our community is deliver compost bins. Every Wednesday, we would come to each classroom and collect the compost bins, rinse them, and put them out on the deck to dry. The next day, we would then bring them back.
Thank you, Mikey. All right, Hazel.
Hi, my name is Hazel. I'm 11 years old and attending 6th grade at Friends School of Wilmington. I enjoyed watching and learning about composting from higher grades. One class did a song, another did a play. My class did a play about an alien named Alan who came from outer space. There was a farmer, a pirate, and a leprechaun. They taught him about composting, trash, and recycling. I was a leprechaun. It took hard work and dedication to learn my lines. but my class and I did it, and the play was a complete success. We also got to get to each classroom in our school, or each room in our school, to collect the compost bins. I came to the conclusion that it smelled, but it was worth it to serve our community. We got a 3-bin compost system at the end of my 5th grade year. It took time to be up and running, but I finally used it in middle school.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby and Mikey and Hazel. And the work that our friends do here at the school is that they start their composting adventure as far as them educating others in 5th grade. And they kind of take that on as their service project for the year. Ooh. And we use composters for individual classrooms because we don't have a cafeteria. Each one of our classes has a compost bin like this. And the students in 5th grade go around and collect all of them once a week. And this kind of helps to keep our composting working all year long and kind of working towards learning a lot about kind of everything behind it. They continue their work in middle school in delving deeper into the chemistry, biology, and physical sciences that are behind the work. And these academic connections are countless, and we even have brought some of them into our lower school curricula. The students will very often have a poster that they would create. So instead of one class creating one compost sign for each room, we ask each grade to take what they learned from the 5th graders, go back to their classrooms with a lesson plan for the teachers to create their own compost poster so that they have the buy-in and they get all excited about it. For the 5th graders, there's a lot of data collection, analysis, and measurement that happens. We incorporate our writing of opinion essays and advocacy into this program. We connect all of the science of ecosystems, the physical properties of Earth's materials and human interactions, life cycles, and decomposers, and also reading informational texts and also learning how to present and speak. So you can see that it has a really interdisciplinary connection, but it doesn't start there. The work that we did develop took time, and we started small. We started with a curiosity. I didn't know anything about composting, and I started by teaching my class. And there had been some kind of stops and starts to composting programs at our school in the past. We learned each time where they were from, and we moved forward. One part I think that was really essential were the inviting of the community members. And this started with our environmental education director, Karen Linham, who brought in people to do look at trash studies, do trash audits with both students and teachers, and to really look at our not only compostable, but our waste and our recycling and how we could improve that process. It has grown every year since. Every year we find something new to do with our program. We've had families like the Kat's family who helped us build our 3-bin system last year, which will allow us to generate a lot more compost and also to learn about the other aspects of it, including the balance of carbon and nitrogen-rich materials that need to go into our program. We started learning about the amount of brown paper towels used in many schools can be used as a material, carbon material for composting. And so we have started to study on that as well. We have not finished working, and we look forward to all that we learn and will incorporate in the future. And thank you for inviting us again and allowing us to speak about this.
Thank you so much, Corrie. Another outstanding program and model for the rest of us to learn from. I am gonna just share verbally right now the resources, and then I'll add into the chat during the Q&A the link for these, and I'll also email it to all of you who have registered for today. But there are a plethora of resources available. So signage and stickers is a common resource that people need when they're getting started. We have North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality website that we'll share with you, a website link that you can see their signage on. And you can also contact NCCC's board member, Christine Whitmire, who works with NCDEQ, and she has a limited supply of the sticker signs available as well. So this is the contact for Christine Whitmire, but you'll receive this again. There's tons of resources available for educational lesson plans to incorporate this kind of content beyond the cafeteria and into the classroom. Some of them are Don't Waste It, Every Tray Counts, and Take Action South Carolina. And then Matt Collogan mentioned the cooperative extension as an educational resource throughout the state, really throughout the country. So Matt has a great cooperative extension page that we'll share with everybody that also has composting and school garden resources as well. And then we've repeated today, start where you are and start small. And so I think that can be replicated in your funding and development of funding for your program. So, local grants would probably be a good smaller place to start. In New Hanover County, there was a Woman Impact Network grant, and the Arboretum offered another grant. So there could be small nonprofits in your area that have similar values or do similar work that might have funding opportunities. And then, as Matt mentioned, the North Carolina Composting Council does offer grants, and it just so happens that it's a mini micro grant. They're $1,000 grant opportunities for the 2025 year. And our deadline is October 18th, so it's not too late to apply for that. And then there are state resources, again, through the Department of Environmental Quality. They have the Climate Food Waste Reduction Grant goes through NCDEQ, and then there's also other recycling grants and things that are available and worth researching there. And the federal grants are usually the larger ones. They typically will require more partnerships specifically with municipalities, but they do have climate pollution reduction grants available, which can be a huge start to building your infrastructure and long-term stability for composting programs. So here is our contact info. I'm going to stop sharing real quick because I would like to share, well, it's actually 12:52. So I'm going to look in the chat and we'll do some question and answers first. I think, Muriel, before I share the video clip, I feel like I'm pushing it. If I show a 3-minute video, that'll give us 5 minutes.
All of the questions have really been answered. They've been sort of.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, cool. Then
there's some curiosity about Every Tray Counts. And I think also that it's worth mentioning that that you're going to be working on kind of another sort of, this is like the 0.10, we're going to be working on a 2.0 school composting webinar.
There's so much that you can dive into in depth with this topic. And so we are in the springtime of 2025 going to host another one, which will dive more onto the educational side and especially more into the resources that we just mentioned. For right now, I'm going to share one of the Chapel Hill-Carrboro School video clips. It's going to be a 3-minute video, but it gives a lot of the different perspectives from key stakeholders that I think is really valuable. If you're interested in starting a program, this is really motivating. Hear that?
It's not playing, Kat.
Thank you. That's what I was worried about. Okay, let me pause it. Sorry
for your patience, everybody. The technology always is a challenge.
Can you see a page with the video? So far, so good. Is it bigger on your screen now, Muriel?
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe keep it small and just hit play.
Yeah, because we can see it here. it shows the whole process that they're doing.
The momentum doesn't have to come from us as administrators or as adults. It's coming from the kids to say, wait, there should be a compost bin. And then they have to make the choice to either come back to the cafeteria and do it, or maybe we look at, do we get a compost bin somewhere else? And similarly, they go home and they say, where's the compost bin? They go into restaurants and they say, where's the compost bin? They go into high schools, they say, where are the compost bins? And that's the systemic change that we're looking for. What we're doing here is really just to collect what we're doing here today. But big picture, we got to get these kids thinking, to look at their world and say, we're missing major opportunities here. So I like the tension that exists with that.
Yeah, I think we've been doing this now for what, a little over 2 years, and I say we see the difference. Like I said, we used to take out 3 and 4 bags a day. Now we're down to 1. And so we're saving a lot for going to the landfill. And so yeah, that's good.
The kids are really, really good. I mean, they just came on board. You know, all 650 of them came on board, and you know, it's like clockwork now in regards to tipping the liquids. They have the actual place for trash, they have the place for composting, and they have the place for recycling, and it works like a charm.
We didn't know exactly how this was going to work, you know, so we were a little hesitant. But like I said, once we got started, we found out it's a lot easier than we thought. You know, plus it saves a lot of walking back and forth to the dump store and change. Yeah, so it worked out good.
They put in worm bins in the different classrooms, because not all our kids eat in the cafeteria. Some will eat in classrooms if they're making up work and so on. So different teachers had worm bins in regards to composting as well. And I think the cool thing is that the students, I mean, it was seamless, the way they reacted to it, and obviously the janitors and the cafeteria staff helped. But I mean, they made it really easy in the way everything's lined up. I think last year we had some parents helping out and showing kids where to put stuff, but now everybody just does it, and not just the ones who've been here, but you know, the ones who are in 6th grade who are new to the school as well. So it's been great, and it's really, I mean, it's sustainable in the sense that those kids have now moved on. The ones that started it, they're at East Chapel Hill High. And with a new batch of kids, what we've begun this year with the help of Dan and CHCCS and the Botanics, the NC Botanics, is we're going to begin looking at sort of planting native flora in different parks, you know, and sort of re-landscaping the campus so that it looks like the ecosystem it should be. But that's sort of a long-term project. But because the recycling and the composting it's kind of up and running, there's not really a whole lot more to do in regards to that. So it's been very good.
Okay. So there is more to that video, and you'll get the link for it if you want to finish that later. But I think it was just a really great vision for not just the process of composting from the cafeteria to your community facilitating or processor, but the importance of your team and the stakeholders who are involved and how it impacts their daily lives for the better. So school composting programs are absolutely worth pursuing. We hope that I am going to screen share one more time, actually, just so you can have our contact information up here. I'm sorry. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in with one question that Marjorie Spitz asked about in-vessel composting. Does anyone here in this room, there's so much knowledge here, does anyone know about in-vessel composting at a school? Huckleberry is a big municipal example of a aerobic turning system. Anybody know of one? We're going to investigate that.
I know Green Mountain Technologies promotes their smallest in-vessel for schools in South Carolina. And so she's actually one of the panelists that I'm going to invite for the spring webinar that we do next on school composting. But that's a great example of diving into further detail. I'm sure there are, Muriel. I feel like there's at least one around the Triangle area, but it's not as common as you'd think, and it is doable. So that's an area that I think needs more research and information to share.
I shared in the chat that we did have a food pantry in, I think they're in Wilson, North Carolina that got a grant from the North Carolina Composting Council for 2 small in-vessel composters that they're using at their facility. So like you said, it is doable. And there's even money out there. The in-vessel composters are a nice way of getting grant funding because it is sealed and it's, one discrete purchase.
That's great. And Jason in the chat just mentioned that I think he said Davidson College has one as well.
College is also a great example. All right, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's wonderful. We're right on the dot at 1 o'clock. I wanted to see if I can upload this one more time in present mode. Can you all see that? It has our contact information. This QR code will take you to our Linktree page. I will send this in an email as well to everybody. And before we hang up, I'll add it into the chat. But there's a document from this QR code that has all of the resources that I mentioned on the resource slide with links. So I will make sure to get that to you all. But you're welcome to stay in touch with any of the panelists from today. We're happy to answer your questions and help you move your programs forward with whatever advice you can learn from our experiences. So thank you, Corrie. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Muriel. And to everybody who attended today, we are greatly appreciative of your interest and efforts. And please stay in touch.
Great job, Kat. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was great meeting you all.
You too.